The balance sheet adjustment screen allows you to see balance sheet accounts on a grid with current balance information, both quantities and book value, and it allows you to update the values, creating a transaction for the difference. To get to the balance sheet adjustment screen, you would go to Processes, Periodic, and Balance Sheet Adjustments, and that was what brings us to this screen. At the top in the company field, we're going to enter in the company that we're making the adjustment for. Then we're going to select an offset account that is going to get the offset to the adjustments being made. And in my case, it's going to be my benefits expense account for the example that I'm using. But this lookup does include all of your accounts except for account payable, account receivable, payroll liability, credit card liability, and inventory accounts. The transaction type is typically going to be general journal cash accrual. There are certain industries where an entry might be needed that does not affect a cash income statement, and in that case, the user might choose general journal accrual. The balance period is the balance period that we're going to make those adjustments against, or the balance period whose balances you want displayed in the grid. The transaction date is the transaction date of the adjustments being made, and then it's going to give you a beginning transaction number. So it'll assign that number to the first transaction and then the next number to the next transaction being created if more than one transaction or more than one adjustment is being made. In the balances section, we're going to filter for the accounts that we're going to make an adjustment to. And the account type lookup is just going to allow us to choose balance sheet types of accounts. I'm going to choose assets. Now at this point, if I were to select accounts using the select accounts button, it would fill the grid with all of my assets. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But I only want to make adjustments to a few accounts. So I'm going to filter it further by choosing an account category. And this is the account category that I'm going to select. So before I click select accounts, I want to point out under the options button that there's an option to include fixed assets in inventory items. At this point, since there is no check mark on it, when I click select accounts, it would not include any fixed assets or inventory items. So if I want them, I need to put a check mark next to that option. I don't need them for my adjustment, so I'm just going to click select accounts and it fills the grid with the accounts in that category. However, I do know that one of the accounts that is in that category is not being shown. And the reason why it's not being shown is because of the check mark up at the top that says to display accounts with non-zero balances. So it's excluding accounts that don't have a balance. Non-zero balance includes both those that are both positive and negative balances. So if I take that check mark out, it adds the line for the account that was missing. For each account, it's going to show me the account name, the abbreviation, the account number, what category it is, and then if that account is being maintained by details such as a profit center, location, inventory location, associated account, or etc., then those details would show there. If we don't need to see any of those columns, you could right click and go to add remove columns and remove them. So if you're not maintaining your balances by any of those details, you could remove those. Then for each of the accounts, it's allowing you to change the offset account for the adjustment. So each line could actually have, or each account could actually make an adjustment against a different account. So you can change it right there. Then for that account, it is going to display the current value of the quantities and the amount, and then it's going to give you a column that will allow you to make the adjustment to what you want it to be. Before we do that, I just want to point out that to the right, you can click on the button to set a default offset account and change the account that will be the default offset to this account for the future. So you can set a different default for the account. And then if what you are adjusting is an inventory, it is possible that you might want to put in an adjusted quantity and a quantity price to create the adjusted amount. But that's only going to be on inventory amounts that you would do that for. Okay, so I'm going to make an adjustment to this line right here, and I'm going to say that at the end of August, we want that amount to be $9,000. Okay, the current value is $8,900, and we're adjusting that to $9,000. And then for this account here, we want to bring that value up to $250. Now, because this balance doesn't have any of those details on it, the transaction that gets created isn't going to have any of those details on it. And on this line, I didn't enter in any of those details. It didn't have a previous balance, but I didn't enter any in, so it's also not going to have those details on it. I'm going to click Post in just a second, but before I click Post, I want to point out that there is an option to create an auto reversing entry in the next month. So for transactions that you are making adjustments for that you want reversed out at the beginning of the next period, if you choose that option, it creates two transactions. It creates the adjustment, but it also creates the reversal of it in the next period. I don't need this one to be reversed out, so I'm not going to select that. I'm going to click Post Adjustments, and then we're going to go to Transaction Search, and we'll search for that. And you'll see that I have those two accounts that I made the adjustment to, the $100 and the $250. And they don't have any of the profit center or location details on them because I didn't have that on the account. I'm going to go back to the balance sheet adjustment screen. If I do want to enter in an adjustment that does include profit center, location, project, inventory location details, then what I can do for an account that is currently not maintaining those balances by that is I could go to a blank line. I could select the account on that line. So I'm going to choose my dental insurance, and then I can make an adjustment that includes that detail on it. So let's say that I want this to go to my membership's profit center. Then the adjustment that I make, so currently the value of that account is $4,600. I don't want to put on this line what I want the adjusted amount to be. I only want to put in the total amount of the adjustment. So if I want that adjustment to be $200, I'll select that. And I could also put a notation on this transaction. So that's what the notation field is there for. Now, if I post that, you'll notice that what happens is this line became $4,800. So it added those two together, what it for the previous value and the amount of the adjustment that I said was $200. Okay, and now if I go to transaction search, I can also see that that transaction then has the profit center on that. And I needed that for my benefits expense so that that offset had that profit center detail on it. And so that's why I showed you that. Okay, so while I've shown you the adjustments to an account in a later period of time, you might also use the balance sheet adjustment screen for entering in your beginning balances if you are just getting started with CenterPoint.